Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Back in better than ever, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and we hope that everyone had a safe and fun and relaxing Labor Day weekend. Now we hit the ground running. We've got football behind us, football in front of us. It's everywhere we look. Plus, Stanton and Maris, as we speak, are neck and neck. And anytime they want to get around to a decision on Zeke Elliott, will be just fine with us. Big fella, we're ready to go. How we feeling today?
Man, let me tell you, awesome. All the great football to watch. Finish off with a great, exciting college football game last night. Back in Atlanta again with Tennessee and Georgia Tech going 2 overtimes. It was a lot of fun to watch that game to finish off an incredible football weekend. From the college side, great golf that went on. I watched a lot of tennis yesterday as well. So it was been a lot of fun. After going to Notre Dame and seeing the new, finally Notre Dame with a video board and watching replays and stuff. So it was a good weekend.
Who did you watch in the tennis? I'm just curious. The first thing Golick said to me, and we're certainly not going to start with this, but the first thing
Nadal.
You watched Nadal yesterday?
I watched Nadal.
I'm glad to hear you watched the tennis.
Yeah. I watched some Federer.
Mm-hmm.
On the women's side, who did I watch? Some of the.
Okay, but it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just glad we went out Sunday. It's such a great event. It's such a terrific thing. If you get the chance to do, if you're in New York or you get a chance to go, it's a terrific event.
It seems like one of those things, not to be derailed already from this, but that to see in person, I know you were there, at least from the men's side, how hard they hit the ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, both sides. The women hit it hard, too, but the men, obviously, it's a different level.
Yeah.
No, it's I mean, the athleticism involved in that sport, some people shortchange tennis for whatever reason. I don't know. It's got sort of an elitist country club
yes, it does.
sort of reputation and probably well-earned. But let me tell you, I will put those guys up as athletes against anybody out there.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about that. I mean, from the women's side of the U.S., women that are left to the men's side with Nadal and Federer hopefully meeting up in the semis, we'll see.
Which was a ridiculously bad decision.
Horrible.
Going back to the beginning, they should have put them on opposite sides of the draw because everyone's attention will be on that match, and the final will be completely anticlimactic. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get to business. All right, we'll start with a couple of notes on the baseball. How about the night for J.D. Martinez and the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, not too bad at all. J.D. Martinez, well, first, as a team, they shut out the Dodgers, who, by the way, have not been performing too well as of late. What lost 9 of their last 10, I believe it is. They lost 13-0 to the Diamondbacks. J.D. Martinez hits 4 home runs. He's the first player to hit 4 home runs in a game against a team that was at least 25 games above 500. First player to homer in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning of the same game. First player in a 4-home-run game to have more home runs than the opponent had hits. The Dodgers only had 3, and he's the third player to homer off 4 different pitchers in a game. Really just an amazing stat. They're the only team in MLB. What would you think really quickly? I want to quiz you on this.
Yeah.
More in baseball history, unassisted triple plays, 4 home run games, or perfect games?
The most, I'm going to say unassisted triple plays is the least. I'm going to say there's more 4 home run games than there are perfect games.
There are less. This is interesting. The rarest occurrences in baseball, there's only been 5 20 strikeout games. Next is 15 unassisted triple plays. 18 4-home run games, 23 perfect games. Then you get into 273 no-hitters, 318 cycles, and all that.
I would have thought there would have been more 4-home run games than that. Well, J.D. Martinez added to that list last night. You were right, by the way, that the Dodgers have lost 9 out of 10. They're still up 12.5 games in the division. And by the way, Martinez, 4 home runs overshadowed what was a huge performance by Robbie Ray.
Robbie Ray, 14 strikeouts. Here's 4 10-strikeout games against the Dodgers this season. Incredible. He's the first pitcher all time with 4 10-strikeout games against the Dodgers in a season. His 53 strikeouts against the Dodgers this season. The second most all time. Christy Mathewson did it in 1908. He had 58 strikeouts. Ray has 53. Oh, by the way, he had a couple RBIs as well.
Off the top.
Giancarlo Stanton hit his 53rd home run of the season yesterday. So as I mentioned in the open, he and Maris, now, of course, it isn't really the record chase,
no, it's
but
not.
Some people will view it in some degree of that way. He and Maris are right now neck and neck.
Yep, they are. At this date, Maris, Stanton, and one of the years of Sammy Sosa at 53 home runs to this point. He has a 15 home run lead over the next closest, which is Aaron Judge. 261 home runs in his first 8 seasons. He passed Prince Fielder for 10th most home runs through a player's first 8 seasons. So he's homering. Unfortunately, the Marlins are losing, though, not helping them much there.
Off the top.
Golic watched the golf yesterday, which means he saw Justin Thomas continue what has been a sensational season on a day filled with big performances from big, big names.
Justin Thomas, 6th player since 1990 to win 5 times with a major in a single season. The only player to do it and fail to win the PGA Tour Player of the Year was Jason Day. He was beaten by another player who won 5 titles with 2 majors. That was Jordan Spieth. By the way, of 5 wins in a major and with a major, Tiger Woods has done it. We have all these names like Nick Price did it in 94, Vijay Singh did it in 2004, Jason Day 2015. Tiger Woods did it 7 times.
7 times.
7 times. He won at least 5, including a major.
It was an element of dominance that you're never going to see.
No, you're
again,
not.
right?
You're not going to see that again.
And certainly, it's the kind of thing that comes along, once every other generation.
Off the top.
And finally, Golic, watch this as well. Rafa and Roger both continue to advance at the U.S. Open on their way to what will be a showdown ridiculously in the semifinals.
Yeah, it's a shame that that's going to happen. But, and I love Nadal when asked about it, the possibility of the matchup. He said, let's talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
They each have another match to go. I'm more impressed. Let's talk about the other side. How about the American women left? Venus Williams, Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys, and Coco Vandeweghe. That's one of the people I watched yesterday as well. It's the first time that many American ladies reached the quarterfinals at a major since Wimbledon in 2003. And how about for Sloane Stephens? She's in action today. On August 7th, she was ranked 934th in the world. Then she had back-to-back semifinal runs in Toronto and Cincinnati. She jumped to number 83.
Yeah.
And she's one of the 4 U.S. women left, so pretty cool there.
And that's
Off
your
the top.
Off the top with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Zipa. Go to Zipa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com. You can get a Zipa so you can stop snoring and enjoy the summer. We hope you enjoyed the summer, and obviously the calendar tells us that it is still summer until September 21st.
No, summer's over.
For most of us, Labor Day comes, and that's it. You put away the white slacks, which I know, Golic, you enjoy wearing.
I kept I am going to wear some white shorts still, but I put the slacks away.
The white shorts will be what for our golf? Golic is already starting to try to talk his way out of our golf match on Thursday.
We're golfing Thursday. Me, you, Mike Periano, Mike Watts, all the Mikes.
It's the Mike's Open.
We all golfed together at Old Memorial years ago. We're going to finish up with a golf match this Thursday. And listen, A, I'm not walking.
We're walking.
And B, if it's raining, I'm not golfing. I mean, it's very simple. I'm not a complicated man. You, Watts, and Periano, you guys are all golf nuts. You'll walk and you'll play in the rain. I will not walk and I will not play in the rain. So enjoy the threesome, by the way, if it's raining.
He does not like it, Sam. No. I am. We'll see if that winds up working out. Meanwhile, all right, let me just very quickly go through this. I thought it was sort of a nice, quick, concise thing that Sam Farmer put together yesterday in the LA Times, because the NFL is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it is.
If you, like I, managed to avoid most of the preseason, then you've not really been in any way exposed to some of the things that will be different about pro football this year. So let's go through them quickly. Some of the rules changes in the NFL this year. Number 1, celebrations. The rules are relaxed on celebrations. Players have more room to have fun in celebrating big plays. Group celebrations are allowed now, and players can use the football as a prop.
Yes, they can.
It isn't anything goes. The league determines if violent, sexually inappropriate, or taunting, those things will still constitute a penalty.
Okay.
That's just funny. Sexually inappropriate or taunting. Okay, next thing, and this one is much more significant because it'll happen perhaps as soon as this weekend, and you'll say to yourself, wait a minute, I'd forgotten they made this change. Overtime is now 10 minutes.
Right.
Remember, we talked about that for one day, and then we all went back to our lives?
So we did.
Well, now is when it becomes a factor again. The length of the overtime period has been reduced from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. It is still, however, at 15 minutes for the postseason, which I think is far less relevant because in the postseason, obviously, they're going to play it out. It will not end in a tie no matter what. In the regular season, 10 minutes, and it will end in a tie. Replay reviews are going to look different. No more sideline monitors, Mike, for officials. They'll now review plays on handheld devices, and designated members of the NFL officiating department in New York will be authorized to make the final call on replay reviews. So is our expectation that those will be faster? Will it be a little bit more efficient?
That's what they're looking for. Let's wait to see it in use, if it's going to be or not.
You're grounded is the way he describes this. No, my favorite play in the sport is gone. Defensive players can no longer take a running start and jump over the offensive line at the line of scrimmage to try and block a field goal or an extra point.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to. Not allowed to talk. Not allowed to hit the center at all, and you can't be within a yard by the snap of that. So you had to time that thing really, really well, and there was really no way around it unless your guard basically stood up and tried to block the guy. And what you do is you just put a guy over a guard to just ram right into him. I'm bummed at that. I like the athleticism of timing that, because I put it on the kicking team. Just very up your, they're very regimented. You'll see the holder, look at the kicker, and then the kicker kind of nod when he's set, and then the holder looks back and puts his hand out, and it's kind of a timing thing. God forbid we make them throw off their timing. God forbid we make them have to time it a little bit differently so they can't let a guy with incredible athletic ability jump over a center. Let's just make sure we keep doing everything so people can score as many points as they can. Perfect.
Yeah, I'll finish.
Come on.
I'll fill in the unspoken one there. God forbid they do anything for the defense.
Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. Wait, there's athletes on that side of the ball, and they're doing something athletic to stop scoring? Let's get that out of the game.
Yeah, that doesn't fit into DraftKings this week.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, defense and special teams, they are significant. Actually, the Jets are a very good buy on DraftKings this weekend against probably a rookie quarterback.
All right, under 12 minutes. First mention of the Jets.
Just on defense.
Mm-hmm. Whenever you mentioned them.
There will be no others. Touchbacks are coming out to the 25 again this year. That continues not to be a permanent rule. It is on a year-to-year basis. It didn't work in year one, let's face it. They flat out they wanted more touchbacks. They got less.
Yep.
Teams aren't going to kick the ball in the end zone if it comes out to the 25, but that's where it's coming. And then finally, 2 strikes and you're out. If a player is penalized twice in the same game for certain types of unsportsmanlike conduct fouls, he is automatically ejected. Those are a few of the rules that we can look forward to as the NFL gets started. And we want to hear from you this morning. Mm-hmm. We are bringing back hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
Right.
We are looking for hot takes, if you will. We're looking for predictions from you on things you expect to see that might be pushing the envelope. Don't be ridiculous.
Right.
Like you had one that you liked.
I had one that Tom Brady is playing so great in the NFL that they're retroactively going to give him the Heisman Trophy from when he was at Michigan. That's too far.
We'll save that for much too far
there
Tuesday.
You go, yeah.
Today we're going to go just a little bit too far. And we got this idea. We did it last year, but we wanted to resurrect it this year because I saw a couple of good hot takes that NFL Nation put out.
Saw it.
So let me read you a hot take, Mike, and you tell me you agree or disagree. This one is on the Patriots, and Mike Reese posted it. Talk of a potential undefeated season will end early, he says. The Patriots will lose one of their early season games, potentially as soon as week 2 at New Orleans. Issues at defensive end and depth at left tackle will show up early before the team finds its groove.
Home to Kansas City, at New Orleans, home to Houston, home to Carolina. That's their first 4 games. Listen, it's the NFL. I get it. And in New Orleans, they can score a lot of points, and we'll see where they are defensively. But I don't, if you're asking me, I'm betting on New England until they lose. They're like Alabama. I will bet New England, I will bet Alabama until they lose.
They also have about a half a bye week leading into that New Orleans game for what it's worth because they play Thursday and then they won't play until the following Sunday. Next NFL Nation hot take from Pat McManaman in Cleveland. This will be the 5th consecutive season, he predicts. The Browns have 3 different starters at quarterback. He predicts that Kaiser, Kessler, and Hogan will all start games. Agree or disagree?
I'm going to disagree on that. They took care of their O-line a bit on the interior of that, where the quarterbacks are just getting destroyed last year. They need to find out what Kaiser can do and if he's going to be that quarterback. So I think he gets every benefit of the doubt. So I would imagine we're talking about injury there. So I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I think that O-line is going to be better for them this year, and I do not think they'll have 3 starters.
One more NFL Nation hot take to set up our Too Far Tuesday. This one's on the Giants, and it is the Giants will finish as the league's top defense in yards and points. It's the second year in the system for Janoris Jenkins, Damian Harrison, Olivier Vernon, Jason Pierre-Paul is another year removed from the fireworks accident. A couple of safeties they upgraded from last year. This unit takes it to another level, it says, and the Giants will be the league's #1 defense in both yards allowed and points allowed. Does Golick agree?
That wouldn't shock me. I mean, that is one I wouldn't bet the house against. They're an excellent defense. They get after the quarterback. They have rushers. I like their secondary as well. Certainly what Collins has done, no doubt about that. And so, yeah, that would not stun me at all if that were to happen. I like that defense a lot. It's something that's going to, I think, we know their passing game's going to have to carry him. Odell Beckham, we'll see. He was on the stationary bike at their last practice where he comes along with that ankle, not only when he can come back and play, but further tweaking it. They don't have a great running game. We talked about that offensive line, so they're going to have to live on defense and the pass.
All right, so let's hear from you. #TooFarTuesday. Give us your NFL hot takes. Give us a prediction that, again, don't take it much too far.
Right.
Just a little too far on this Tuesday as we get set to kick off the NFL season with you. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. And before we get to all the NFL action, Mike, let's look back on the college weekend because I'm sure a lot of people were out of their routine yesterday. Thank you to Mikey and Stu for ably filling these seats yesterday. But to go through the college stuff, let's start with the big game, Mike. And that was, there were a lot of big games. But Alabama-Florida State was the monster game on the schedule, and it certainly lived up. And I watched all of it. It lived up in terms of drama. It was for a game that had as little scoring. I mean, if you didn't see it, all the Alabama points came in that little flurry, basically, with the special teams errors. But it had a lot of drama, and, of course, the worst of it being DeAndre Francois being out for the year.
Listen, it ended up being a 24-7 win. So now, Nick Saban is 11-0 against former assistant coaches and all double-digit wins by at least 14 points.
Correct.
So they did it again here. They just kind of do what Alabama does. It's a close game, and then they just kind of one way or another, for some reason, in this case it was special teams, a block field goal, a block punt, that helped them along the way. And Alabama just keeps churning it out. The shame of it is, now listen, Florida State and Jimbo Fisher saying exactly the right thing. He said it's nowhere written in the rule book that our season is over because we lost a starting quarterback. Nowhere written that the next guy coming in, which is going to be a freshman, by the way, and Blackman coming in, it can't play well. And I agree with that. But it is a shame. I mean, really looking at it, DeAndre Francois gets hurt toward the end of the game. A lot of people saying, should he have been in the game? I don't want to hear that. Players stay in the game. You play a tough game like that, you stay in the game. I understand that, so I'm not going down that road. But he's done for the season, hurts his knee. And it's a shame because that is Florida State is a championship defense, not a playoff champ. They are a championship defense. They are an excellent defense. That Derwin James is incredible. The player that he is, the versatility that he has, and Alabama has an excellent defense. It was a low-scoring game until some of those things went on special teams. But I loved it. I loved the defensive game. It was. So Florida State loses their quarterback. That is just a monster blow. Alabama actually lost a couple of starting linebackers as well, one with an elbow, one with a torn biceps. So they'll have to go into their depth right away from the linebacking position. But for Florida State, much worse there, losing Francois, a guy ready to take that next step as a second-year starter. So that's going to be trouble for them. We both thought the loser of this game, and we thought it was going to be Florida State, would not come back to make the playoffs, and that was even if they had DeAndre Francois. I just don't see it happening.
Me neither. You leave yourself no margin for error. Again, I love that they schedule these early season games. If I was a coach, I wouldn't do it. That has nothing to do. Like, the way the game turns out has nothing to do with it. We mentioned Alabama's losses, and we should also mention, for those who've not heard, absolutely tragic news.
Horrible.
Within the Alabama football program, the son of their assistant coach, Mike Loxley, was shot and killed in Maryland on Sunday, which left, as the story says here, players and coaches with a lot more than football on their minds. On Monday, Nick Saban said that the program will support the coach and the family in any way they can. Tragic
news, going after that game. There's such a build-up for the game, and that obviously takes front and center. As Nick Saban said, they'll do anything they need to do to support Mike and the family. So that was horrible.
Michigan-Florida next was a game that people had a lot of eyes on, and I know you had some questions about Michigan in a rebuilding kind of a year. That defense looks awful.
Defense is fantastic. Defense, I talked about Florida State and championship defense. That Michigan defense is for real. A lot of people are going to talk about Florida with the 10 players missing. couple were starters, their top running back, top receiver. Others were kind of depth guys. But that Michigan defense is absolutely for real. The Florida offense, again, is going to be bad. They just don't have a quarterback. They started with the kid Franks, went to Malik Zaire, the transfer from Notre Dame, and it just wasn't working out. They still have Del Rio, who was in that mix as well. They're going to struggle there offensively. I do like their defense. They if they didn't have a couple of pick sixes there, this game would have been an absolute
Same
blowout.
thing happened in the Ohio State game last year with Michigan. You'll recall they dominated the action for so much of that day, and then a couple of big mistakes on interceptions wound up being an enormous factor in that game long before any officials' calls, one way or the other. Michigan, I believe Michigan's defense is for real.
They are for
Harbaugh's
real.
getting his guys in there now, so he likes big stout.
Listen, that's Big Ten. He likes that, and they only had X amount of starters coming back. He's got a number of guys in that defense who saw a number of some time, so they just weren't starters. So sometimes that's skew a little bit. Plus, he's bringing in great talent as a recruiter, and their defense is excellent.
For those of you who didn't see the game, don't let the final score fool you. The Michigan defense allowed 3 points on the opening drive and no more the rest of the way, and they allowed Florida 11 rushing yards on the day. Michigan is for real.
The best of Mike and Mike. Right now.
That's the second time I've done that. I want. Can you guys take the 5-point stance sounder off of my board? Because obviously, I always hit that one wrong. I wanted to hit a little football sound effect to set up our Too Far Tuesday. That's the one that I meant to hit. But right above it, there's another one that has words on it. And whatever, I'd love to have the last 20 seconds of my life back
There
again.
you go.
The hashtag is Too Far Tuesday this morning with Mike and Mike. And we're taking your hot takes, but we don't want them too hot. We want them like lukewarm today. We want like slightly above room temperature.
Are you saying
takes.
just kind of ease into this?
Well, don't give like you gave a good example. Don't give me like Tom Brady will be so good they'll retroactively give him the Heisman.
Yeah, let's not get crazy, but you can get out there a little bit. Something that is a possibility of happening.
Yeah, so you tell me, Mike, how hot is this take? Is it too hot for you or not hot enough? Crimson Joe tweets, the Cleveland Browns will finish tied for second in the AFC North. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
I like how I didn't say second, tied for second.
That's a very specific prediction.
It is.
It sort of tempers it. Assuming we think that Pittsburgh is the team to beat there, is he suggesting that they will finish tied with Cincinnati for second?
Or Baltimore?
Is it possible that, we've now run through all of the options.
Yes, we have.
I guess in theory, if Ben gets hurt, which has happened in recent years, the Steelers could fall out of that. I'm going to say that one's too hot for my taking.
I don't mind going off. I don't mind
too
that
hot.
one.
Too hot. That takes too hot.
No,
they're not finishing.
Are you
second in that
enamored
division.
with Baltimore or Cincinnati?
I'm much more enamored with Cincinnati than I am with Cleveland.
Okay, all right.
To me, that take is too hot.
I don't mind that take.
Let me see here. How about this one? Casey Castillo. David Carr will struggle and have more interceptions than touchdowns. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Here's what I like about it.
First thing he should do is get the quarterback's name right.
Right. It is Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's referring to Derek Carr.
David Carr is an analyst now.
Because if he is actually referring to David Carr, then the prediction is null and void.
Yeah.
If he means Derek Carr, that's a hot take. I mean, that would be an extremely hot take.
What happens first? Derek Carr throws for more interceptions than touchdowns, or Cleveland finishes tied for second in the division?
I like Cleveland better.
Me too.
I like the possibility. That's a little too hot.
Me too.
How about Buck Seckler tweets at us, a running back will win MVP this year. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
I mean, that's a good.
I mean, I thought it
wrong
could have
with that
happened
one.
last year. I honestly thought you could have easily given when you took everything into account. I thought you could have given Zeke Elliott the MVP award last year and completely justified it.
That would not shock me at all if that were to happen.
Now, it isn't going to be Zeke, obviously.
No.
Depending upon what happens.
Yeah.
The last running back to win Most Valuable Player was Adrian Peterson in 2012. Could a guy like Le'Veon Bell win the MVP award?
David Johnson, depending on what the team does, I think, as well.
If Arizona were to put together a stunningly good season, then that's what it's going to have to be.
That's
I think in this day and age of the NFL, unless a guy goes over 2,000 yards, you're going to need a guy who's going to put the combination of pass catching and running
those two
on a
guys,
really good team.
Those two guys are the top two guys to do it, and right off the bat, you would say Pittsburgh would be the team you could go that you think would go further.
Keep those coming all morning long. We're taking your tweets through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, the first Too Far Tuesday of the season. We like our takes hot, but not too hot. And we remind you can watch and listen to your favorite games and shows on the ESPN app. It's simple, it's easy, it keeps you connected. Take ESPN with you everywhere. Download the ESPN app right now. All right, of all the things that happened this weekend, and I mean all of them, the one that I think had the most interesting and significant repercussions long term was the New England Patriots trading away Jacoby Brissett. They traded away their third-string quarterback who played admirably, was drafted in the third round not long ago. I mean, he's a player that there are people in the league who think he has a future at the quarterback position, including Bill Parcells in a big way. They traded him to the Colts for Philip Dorsett, we would assume, as a result of the Edelman injury. Mm-hmm. But what does this mean, big picture? It means you've got Brady, who is 40. It means you've got Garoppolo, who is a free agent at the end of this season. I think, Mike, what it means is that Bill Belichick has made up his mind that he's not letting Jimmy Garoppolo go, no matter what happens. And the only way to do that is to franchise him next year. So they will franchise him, and that means, assuming Brady is still there and playing well and at a high level, that you are going to have Garoppolo as sort of in waiting, making more money than Tom Brady.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't.
Well, you tell me how else it plays out. Why else do they trade Jacoby Brissett, who is an able-bodied backup and doesn't cost you practically any money?
Well, I think there's one thing to having Garoppolo on the team to know you're a Super Bowl team, and for the chance that Brady might get hurt. You have a guy that could step right in and keep the team going to help still win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie. I think it's ridiculous, the talk of Brady and the possibility of Garoppolo taking over next year and this being Brady's last year. I think it's a joke.
Why?
I think Brady's going to be the next year, the next 2 or 3 years. God, I think it's ridiculous to think that the year he had, that there's going to be such fall off after this year that you're going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to dump Brady and sign Garoppolo and he's the quarterback of the future is nuts. I think you're nuts. I think anybody who says that is nuts. Brady is the quarterback for this team for 2 to 3 more years without question. And I think any talk of Garoppolo taking his job, I've heard people saying, has Garoppolo closed the gap? My God, people, what are you talking about? Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to play this game, had one of his best seasons last year. He's not going anywhere for the next couple of years. And any talk of it, in my eyes, is ridiculous.
No, it isn't, because he's 40 years old.
He's
40 years old.
As I said, 2 to 3 more years. Any talk of Garoppolo taking over next year is ridiculous.
Listen to me, okay?
I've heard you say it time and time again, and it's ridiculous.
The actions speak louder than words in everyone's case, and especially with Belichick, because he never says anything. But the trade of Brissett, Mike, is a major step in that direction. You're taking a backup who was under control now going forward. If you were to lose, just play it out.
I played it out.
Brady is the
know the play out. I get it. I've been around this for a while.
So
I
then
get
tell
it.
me what happens next year.
What happens? Well, my point is they could do that. I'm not saying they won't. My point is all of you that are saying, well, they're going to do to Brady what they've done to everybody else. He'll have some time left. He'll be gone. They're going to put Garoppolo in there. Whatever they do with Garoppolo, I don't care if they franchise him. I'm telling you that Brady will be the quarterback for 2 or 3 more years to that team. But I don't care if they want to franchise Garoppolo. Give him a big. Well, they couldn't give him a deal that somebody else would give him. They would have to
franchise him. Realistically speaking,
that's fine. If you're saying I'm not, no, I get it. They might do that. Where I think you're
why
nuts.
do you do that? Play it out. Why do you do that? You do that because you believe he's your quarterback of the future. You don't want to pay that guy $25 million
until Brady
to never
keeps playing well, and you're not taking him off the field.
You will take him off the field.
No, you will
when
not.
He starts to show slippage, which reasonably speaking has to happen.
Get back to me when it happens. Get back to me when it happens. So, and as I said, 2 to 3 more years, he'll be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Whatever you want to do with Garoppolo, that's fine. You want to keep paying, you want to franchise him, go ahead. I don't care. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. And anybody who sits there and keeps saying it's going to change earlier than that, I think you're nuts.
It's a hell of a lot of money to pay a guy if you're not planning on
paying
him.
Yes, it is. And it'd be a hell of a stupid move if Brady is still playing well to put him on the shelf.
Well, if Brady is still playing well, it doesn't even come up.
That's exactly right. That's my point.
But Belichick is smart enough to recognize that Brady, among other things, is a human being.
Okay,
and human beings, no matter what, it has to start happening.
So he's playing the odds. I get it. All I'm saying is I think Brady has 2 to 3 more years. What don't you understand about that?
That part of it is fine.
We're agreeing.
But you don't think that the trade of Brissett is telling in some way? way.
Telling him what Garoppolo was going to be the quarterback of the future. We all knew that. They didn't trade him away. If they didn't trade him away last year,
they can't control him forever.
I understand that.
They can only control Garoppolo for a limited period of time.
Because they didn't trade them, I knew this already. Trading Brissett didn't mean anything to me. Them not trading Garoppolo was the thing that was important. It said, we want him on this team. A, in case Tom gets hurt, we think this guy can step in and still lead us to the Super Bowl. And B, he's going to be our guy of the future. I knew that when they didn't trade him. Trading Brissett didn't do anything for me. That just gave him some more weapons, which they obviously can use.
Yeah, again, I think that is a result of the Edelman injury,
right?
Which is fine, and I was so disappointed that Austin Carr didn't make that team, and I really believe he would have played great there. He got signed by the Saints, so I'm happy for him. But either way, to me anyway, trading away Brissett leaves you with no security blanket, or whatever the word I'm looking for is, so you can't lose Garoppolo.
Give me the last years of where they've only gone with two quarterbacks. That's what New England does. They have two quarterbacks on the roster.
I understand.
So they don't have three. So they weren't going to have three. So Brissett got traded away.
Well, I mean, last year they had three.
They had
obviously,
three, right?
They had these three
you
guys.
Look at the next,
but Brady was suspended for the first 4 games.
You look at the amount of years, go back X amount of years, two quarterbacks. That's what they have. This Brissett trade didn't do anything for me. Them not trading Garoppolo, to me, was the thing that we're going to try and hang on to him to see how things go.
So, to me, just to sum up my feeling on this, the actions dictate that Belichick has they suggest, I shouldn't say dictate, that Belichick has decided that Garoppolo is the future of quarterback in New England.
That.
Well, but they can only control him for so long.
I understand that.
So, I mean, 3 years at this point seems like that's going to be – now, look, anything can happen.
Sure can.
They could franchise Garoppolo and decide to move on from it, but that feels like a very unusual circumstance. All right, well, we'll see. My Too Far Tuesday is that Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback of the New England Patriots a lot sooner than Golick thinks he's going to be, but that obviously remains to be seen.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Here we are, Mike and Mike. We're rolling along and busy on this Too Far Tuesday. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, they will include our friend Peter King from the MMQB.com. He'll join us shortly. Stu Gotts will join us an hour from now. Darren Woodson today, Paul Feinbaum all around the college. We only got a little bit into some of the big college stories of the weekend. We'll get
some good ones.
Golick's take on a few more of those a little later, and all morning long your takes using the hashtag #TooFarTuesday. Give us your predictions for the upcoming NFL season. We want reasonable stuff
push the limits a little bit. I think this was a little easy. I think this actually could happen. This a tweet from Ryan. J.J. Watt will have more touchdown than the Jets have wins.
Oh, then the Jets have wins.
Yeah, not that the Jets have touchdowns.
Well,
no,
I mean,
on.
That one was. I think it's almost indisputable.
J.J. Watt more touchdowns than the Jets have wins.
Yes. Well, I mean, to me that I'm not even sure you could get that bet on the board.
So if J.J. Watt gets to 2 touchdowns, it's a commanding lead.
Probably.
Yeah.
Look, the Jets are probably facing Nathan Peterman. At last I've seen as the starting quarterback for Buffalo this weekend in the openers. That could be, you want to talk about terrible football games.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a terrible, terrible opener if that is what winds up happening around the league. And, of course, we have a bunch of weather-related NFL stuff as well. Houston and Jacksonville, it's confirmed they will play in Houston this weekend. So that's obviously great news.
Yes, it is great news. And
Miami and Tampa may not.
Yeah, with the hurricane, was it Irma?
Irma.
That's coming up there. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And take a snapshot of the Las Vegas line. The Los Angeles Rams are favored in the game. Wow.
Don't know what the last time that happened was, and not sure when the next time it'll happen will be. I've seen some interesting prop bets also.
But it's because, real quick, we should explain, it's because Andrew Luck is not playing.
Yeah.
The Colts would be a 3-point favorite if Luck was playing. Luck is not playing. Scott Tolzien gets the start. So the Rams are actually a 6-point swing in the line there.
You know, it's funny. I remember when we first started getting word when they opened camp and Luck's not back and he's not throwing yet, and it was a very it's
I was
no
saying that.
deal.
I was saying no need to have him throw. Just make sure everything is fine. But boy, it has certainly taken a turn, hasn't it?
It's taken a huge turn. So we have all that in the hopper and a whole lot more. But before we get Peter King in here, this is sort of an interesting one. I just threw out there the story that we got from Cleveland.com over the weekend is that the Cavaliers are taking phone calls. I'm going to use the word actively shopping. That might be overstating it, but they're at least open to the idea, it seems, of trading that number one pick they got from the Celtics by way of Brooklyn, or actually from Brooklyn by way of the Celtics, in the Kyrie Irving trade, which is an extremely valuable asset. And I think we all looked at it and figured that's their future. That's the pick they're getting to assure themselves of being able to kind of start over again if they lose LeBron. And so we were trying to think, well, if they're really going to trade that, how do they do it? How does the money match up? And I got a note here from our assignment desk, from Chuck at our assignment desk. How do you like this? And the money matches up. The Brooklyn pick and Kevin Love for Anthony Davis. How do you like it?
How would you not like it?
Well, I mean, if you're New Orleans, if you don't believe that Anthony Davis is going to be with you forever,
right.
you don't do it under any circumstances if you're New Orleans, if you believe that Davis is going to play his whole career there.
Oh, it's exactly right.
But if you believe he isn't, then you're building around a high first-round pick and a good player in Love who could sort of reassert himself into being potentially a number one guy, a dominant player. Right now you have DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah,
I don't know
who knows?
what
I don't
that
know how
would mean
long
for
that's
his
gonna last.
future.
Yeah, right.
But that would be, I mean, that was the one that immediately jumped in Chuck's mind. He sent it to me.
Well, if you're
Cleveland,
right?
it's the greatest move of all time.
Without a doubt.
The question is, would New Orleans do it? And the answer is probably not. But if they really didn't believe they would keep him, he re-signed when? 2 years ago now?
I think it was 2
years. How many years left does Davis have on his contract? But we're told the money works. So that would be an interesting one if we see how it happens.
Well, that would.
All right, well, we'll see as the summer continues to work on. It's been a very interesting offseason for the NBA. It's been an equally interesting offseason for the NFL, and that offseason is now 2 days away from coming to an end. We kick off on Thursday night, and our friend Peter King from the MMQB is standing by in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line helping us get set for the start of Pro Football 2017. Good morning, Peter King.
Good morning, man. And, you're talking about Cleveland, and it just seems like the case in every sport in Cleveland. They're always talking about draft choices and trades. And it almost seems like, especially with the Browns, really, that almost seems to be as important. The second season is as important as the real season. And it looks like it's starting to be the same way with the Cavs, too.
Be careful, Peter. I'm from Cleveland.
Listen,
be careful.
The Cavs, the Browns have 2 drafts in 2018.
Yeah,
right.
They do.
They have 2 drafts. They have 2 ones. They have
look,
3
Mike,
twos.
You know what?
Yeah.
What they have. I mean, what's the amazing thing when you think about these Browns is that over 2015 versus 2018, they've got 48 draft choices. I mean, that's more than you need to fill a team. That's over 4 drafts. That's like 16 more draft picks than you're supposed to have normally in the NFL. So, I mean, they better make a team out of this. I don't know what I'd do if I was Jimmy Haslam, and in 2018 or 19, I'm not competitive. I think you throw up your hands and basically say, the curse is real.
Well, I mean,
but anyway, you got to give him the chance. You got to give Kaiser the chance and see what happens.
That was my thought. I mean, they've been so inept over the years. I guess you just have to wait and see how this latest plan turns out, right? I don't know if anybody is saying, "Oh yeah, they have it figured out now," but at least you have to give them the time to see where they're going. Correct?
Absolutely, and they should. And I talked to Haslam at length during training camp, and he said, this is our team. This is my team, and we're giving them the opportunity. So I don't care if they go 2-14 this year. Hugh Jackson's not in jeopardy. Sashi Brown's not in jeopardy. They'd have to rob a bank in Cleveland and rob daylight to lose their jobs.
All right, so let's move on to other things here, Peter, and let's start with a trade. So the Patriots kick off the season on Thursday night against the Chiefs. I know you have something special planned for that, and we'll get to that in a second. But in the first hour of our show today, Mike and I got a little bit into the Jacoby Brissett trade over the weekend, which stunned me. And I think that it has a lot of ramifications. What was your takeaway, and what does it mean big picture for the future of Jimmy Garoppolo in New England?
I don't think it means anything for Jimmy Garoppolo. I honestly don't. I think this means that the Patriots had a good chip to use, especially after his great performance Thursday night in the inter-squad scrimmage. I refuse to call it any sort of a game against the Giants. But he had developed to the point where he was worth something. And so now the Patriots simply made a trade for a potentially significant piece, Philip Dorsett. And I know everybody wants to say, well, this means they're going to franchise Garoppolo next year and all that stuff because they don't have the insurance now with Brissett. I don't think it means that at all. I think it means the Patriots will see where they are in February 2018. I don't think this guarantees anything.
So let's stay with the Patriots. They open up against Kansas City on Thursday. What do you have planned for that opening game?
Well, we're gonna cover the game pretty extensively, but for the first time in 34 years I've covered the NFL, I'm not going to write anything after the game. I'm going to do a live podcast after the game, and we're going to post it. And we're just, media's changed so much, guys, that what we're trying to do is sort of keep up, be new, be different, and so we'll have a live podcast up at 5:30 a.m. on Friday at the MMQB, and we're looking forward to that.
Fun. Mike and Mike, Peter King is with us. Okay, let's move on to other matters. We are waiting. I'm assuming any minute now, any hour now, any time now, we will hear something from Harold Henderson on the Zeke Elliott appeal, and then it will go into whatever the next stage of this thing is. What is your expectation of what is about to happen, and what do you think it all means for the league and its relationship with the players?
Well, I think, as we all know, everybody expects Harold Henderson, the appeals officer in this, to rule on this before 4 o'clock today. If he doesn't rule by 4 o'clock Eastern time, then Ezekiel Elliott plays Sunday against the New York Giants. But I expect there to be a ruling, and the ruling, I think, judging by the testimony and the fact that there is so much about the accusers, points in this case that have been debated. I will not be surprised if he lessens the sanction from, let's say, 6 to 4 games. But whether that happens or not, I still think the Ezekiel Elliott side will be in court in Texas later today to try to get a temporary restraining order. I don't expect that to be granted, but, when you enter court, anything can happen. My gut feeling is he's probably going to be suspended for the Giants game, but again, it's only a gut feeling. I think we all would go broke trying to predict what's going to happen in court. We did with Tom Brady, and so we'll see what happens. But my gut feeling is he went to the best appeals officer in Harold Henderson, and that gives him the best opportunity for Elliott to get the sanction reduced.
So again, we have till 4 Eastern today to have a decision. If there's no decision, then Zeke will be able to play in Week 1 this week coming up. What is going on in Indy with Andrew Luck? I mean, I was one who was saying, hey, don't worry, he's not throwing in the offseason leading up to camp. That's okay. He'll throw when he's ready. But now, missing Week 1, he's not on the PUP list, so I imagine they're expecting him sometime back between Week 1 and Week 6. Any more clarity on this, or this seems to be a real clouded issue?
It is a clouded issue, Mike. And I think when I went to Colts training camp in August, one of the things I was told in no uncertain terms is that Andrew Luck was not going to play football until doctors told the Colts he's absolutely 100% healthy. They have seen over the last year plus that he has not been himself. And so Chris Ballard, the new GM, basically said to the doctors, hey, listen, just tell me when he can practice and when he can play and when his shoulder is absolutely 100%. They don't want this to be a lingering issue. And I can't blame Ballard at all, because to me, when I look at the Indianapolis Colts, I think you have to take the long view. If you're going to have Andrew Luck and you're going to be concerned constantly with what shape he's in, that's no way to go through this season or future seasons. So they're taking the conservative way, and that means probably, I think, for more than the first week, Scott Tolzien. I think the big question is, week 2 or 3, does that mean that Jacoby Brissett could play if Tolzien struggles in week 1 against the Rams?
And to boot their center, Ryan Kelly, the good kid they got from Bama in the first round, what was it, last year? He's hurt. He's out for about 8 weeks. Could be a rookie, Deshaun Bond, undrafted kid from Cincinnati, starting at center. So you want to be careful who's in front of Luck and make sure he's ready to go.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Peter King is with us. You mentioned in your Monday Morning Quarterback column that trades seem to have been way up this offseason, and particularly this flurry at the end over the last couple of days. What was the cause of that?
In my opinion, there's a new wave of general manager and team in the NFL right now, led by, I think, John Schneider, who in the 2 weeks before the deadline or the roster cut deadline made 6 trades. The Patriots made 5. And I think those teams, basically, everybody looks at those teams, number one, and says, well, if they can do it, why not us? And because teams like that are setting the, sort of setting the pace, and they're essentially saying, okay, here's what the market cost of a usable defensive end, Cassius Marsh, is. It's a 5 and a 7. And everybody looks at that, and that's what sets the market. John Schneider's unafraid of setting the market. The Patriots are unafraid of setting the market. And both of them, I think, and you've got other general managers. Rick Spielman likes to trade in Minnesota. Howie Roseman likes to trade. Thomas Dimitroff in Atlanta likes to trade. These are people who are unafraid of making trades. And I think that is one of the big reasons why so many trades have happened so far in 2017 before the season.
To me, Peter, and for both of you guys, I don't think nearly enough was made from an overall impact on the standings kind of way of the trade of Sheldon Richardson to Seattle. For people who haven't had a chance to see him play, and he's been largely on bad teams with the Jets, and there have been a lot of headlines about him that have been not so flattering, and all of them of his own doing, deservedly. He's been a bit of a pain in the neck. But, Peter, he's a great player. I mean, a genuinely great player to plug directly into the middle of the defensive line of an already great defense. This could be an enormous impact or enormously impactful move that the Seahawks made.
I totally agree. It's one of the reasons why I picked Seattle to get to the Super Bowl, because I think if you look at their front, look, when John Schneider drafted Malik McDowell in the second round, it was clear that he wanted a young, three-technique defensive tackle to disrupt the quarterback. He knows that with Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett, even though they're aging, he's going to be able to get to the quarterback from the edge, okay? But he wanted another young stud in the middle of their defensive line. Sheldon Richardson, I agree totally. I think this is a game-changing trade by the Seahawks. And look, they didn't just get him for 2017. They are going to try very hard to get him signed for 2018 and beyond, because they feel like this could be their next Michael Bennett. You know, their next guy who's going to be a real difference maker on a defensive front. And look, Seattle over the last 4 or 5 years has been the best defense in football, and overall. And I think now you got Houston catching up, other teams catching up. To me, I think this is something that John Schneider did not just for this year, but for the next 3 or 4 years.
Peter, looking forward to the start of a new season with you, as always, and we'll check in soon down the road here. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you very much.
That's Peter King with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Just to finish up thoughts on that, the Jets wanted to get rid of Richardson for a variety of reasons. Yeah. One is that they spent a lot of money on their defensive line last year by re-signing Muhammad Wilkerson, and they've got Leonard Williams.
They're going to be paying.
Who they're going to pay. And Richardson has had a variety of issues.
Of his own doing, you're absolutely right.
But he is an
football
incredibly good player.
Let me tell you what, everybody in the NFC just went, are you kidding me? Wait, he's here? And then in that division, I mean, him and Bennett and Averill, Wagner at linebacker, the secondary that they have, oh, my God.
He's young. He's talented. He's ridiculously good.
Yeah, that was a huge, on already what is considered by many the best, if not right there in the team picture of the best defenses. They add that on the D-line.
Peter King came down on your side of the significance of Jacoby Brissett trade and its relevancy towards Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll continue to stand in disagreement to both of you. I don't think that Belichick trades Brissett. This is just my opinion. I don't think he trades Brissett if he hasn't already made up his mind that he's keeping Garoppolo there no matter what happens. And I think that is significant. I do, because if you franchise him next year, you'll have so much money tied up in two quarterbacks between Brady and Garoppolo. Garoppolo will make more than Brady will, because Brady is a bargain at his number considering his brilliance. But you'll have so much money wrapped up in the quarterback position, it will put even them in a little bit of a bind. So I do think it is significant.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they don't keep three quarterbacks. They did last year because he was suspended, Brady. I mean, other than that, they don't. So that didn't surprise me one bit of what's going on, and we'll just have to wait and see, you know, where we go with the whole Brady thing, and does he slip enough in your what's slip enough in your mind? What's Brady slipping in your mind?
I think it's not a question of numbers or anything. I think it's a question of Belichick looking at it and saying, this is the time. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes extremely complicated, because this is not Richard Seymour, and it's not this is Tom Brady, who is, the greatest quarterback of all time. He's like a son to the owner, and that obviously kind of factors into it in a complicated way. And I genuinely believe that he and Belichick love each other. But Belichick has always done whatever is in the best interest of the franchise. Mm-hmm. I don't think he can if he thinks Garoppolo is the future, it's just this simple. Mm-hmm. He can't let that guy go. And that becomes it could potentially get messy. Maybe it doesn't. I've got a million tweets here of people saying Tom Brady will win the Super Bowl this year and retire. Maybe he will. He keeps talking about wanting to play another 5 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, this guy genuinely, and a lot of players do, loves the game.
Yeah.
He loves the game. He feels great right now physically. God knows, he talks about the diet and everything that's going on, and he's in great shape for what he needs to do. I just, as I said, I'll stick by it. 2 to 3 more years. He's a quarterback for the Patriots.
We are Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot, even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. We're just getting rolling on this hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Keep those coming in. They're fun all morning long. Your predictions on the start of this NFL season. We'll make our official picks on Thursday morning, along with the actual kickoff of the season that night with Kansas City and New England.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. Stugotz, Darren Woodson, Paul Feinbaum, and more still on the menu this morning, taking your hashtag Too Far Tuesdays. Then we'll do fill in the blank, and then we'll go through some of the college football from the weekend that we didn't get a chance to touch on and get Mike's thoughts on some of the bigger games and performances. Here are a couple of other hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Your predictions. We're looking for lukewarm takes here. Don't get too crazy.
Push the envelope a little bit, though.
You tell me if this is too far. Robert Simon tweets, Carson Wentz wins MVP and the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Listen, I mean, I have them behind the Cowboys and the Giants in that division right now, but I like Wentz a lot. I was a fan of his coming out of college. I like what he's done. I like the direction they're going in Philadelphia. Let's see if it's enough right now. Do they have enough all the way around? I mean, you look at the teams they're battling, and everybody has their areas they have to work on. Cowboys defensively, especially secondary. The Giants, running game, O-line. So I think that's perfect for a Too Far Tuesday, where you don't dismiss it out of hand and say there's no way, because you know what? You just never know. You never know who gets hot at times. You never know if there's going to be that surprise team. I don't expect it, but if it were to happen, it wouldn't be so far-fetched where I'd say, oh, my God, that's just ridiculous.
Correct. I think it's the perfect definition
of
the Too Far Tuesday. It's not something I'm projecting to happen, but if it's something – look, there are always things that happen that no one sees coming. Last year on this day, if I had said, here's a Too Far Tuesday, like Dak Prescott is going to be the Rookie of the Year, a legitimate candidate for MVP, and the Cowboys are going to go 14-2, we would have said, yeah, that's a bridge too far, right? Don't be ridiculous.
Right.
And it's exactly what happened. And as it played out, it didn't seem so crazy. So could we see Carson Wentz, who got off to a great start as a rookie last year, get off to a fast start in Philly this year? The additions they brought in on offense on the outside really start clicking, and that team get it going, and maybe the Cowboys take a step back, maybe no Zeke for several weeks. We'll see. maybe some of those deficiencies you mentioned with the Giants wind up being more significant than we thought. I think the Giants are going to be really good because I think they have a defense that can overcome almost any mistakes.
That always helps.
And if Marshall is healthy with Marshall and Beckham, I think the Giants are going to be really good. But either way, it's not totally beyond the realm.
This is one that's a little pushing it to be. And Marcus says 2 rookie quarterbacks will start against each other in the playoffs. Now, the one you could possibly see is Deshaun Watson. A lot of people think Houston's a playoff team. So go in the AFC.
Well, Mahomes would be the one.
I was going to say, beat Mahomes because the other AFC starters are Kaiser. You don't see the Browns getting there. Mahomes. Yeah, is Peterman, does he get a lot of starts in Buffalo, depending on Tyrod Taylor?
Do you expect them in the playoffs?
No, I don't. So I think this is a reach, and in the NFC, I don't see it happening. So I think that one, I don't see any real shot of that one happening. Though with injuries, you can never tell.
Yeah, I mean Trubisky, but the Bears don't feel in any way, shape, or form like a playoff team. So we'll see. Yeah, that's the likelihood of that. While slim, if it were to happen, would be Mahomes and Watson.
I think that would be it, yeah.
Those feel like playoff teams. All right, keep the Too Far Tuesdays coming, and we'll keep going through them all morning long. Good fun to be had. Fill in the blank, meanwhile, is brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. Here we go, Golick. Fill in the blank. Number 1, Brock Osweiler will start blank games for the Broncos this season.
Wow. 3. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I do. Let me put it this way. I do think he's going to start some games.
Why?
Well, Lynch, I do not think he's hurt now, but I just do not think Lynch. I had questions about him coming in. Forget even the first round. Questions about him playing. And I think this is a Super Bowl caliber defensive team for sure. And so we'll see, if there's any sign out of Simeon that, he's struggling. I don't think they'll I shouldn't say I don't think they'll hesitate, but I think they will go to Osweiler.
I'm going with my heart over my head. Brock Osweiler will start 0 games for the Broncos this season because Northwestern's old Trevor Siemian will play really well, which he did much of last year.
He did. No, I'm with you. He did.
Before he got hurt. Next, fill in the blank. Safety T.J. Ward calling the Broncos, quote, unprofessional for cutting him is blank.
Yeah.
A quick summary of the circumstances of why he's upset.
Yeah, he just doesn't like the way he was told that he was released. He was hurt for most of the preseason. He felt if this was the route they wanted to go, they could have let him know instead of waiting the entire time all the way. They thought as he was healthy, he was going to be getting ready for week 1, like everything was just how it was going to be, and then he ended up getting released. He didn't like it. I mean,
been a leader on that team.
Yeah,
sort of said, maybe they could have owed me a little something.
You know what this is? Business. At the end of the day, I've always said that. You know what? You can think you have a better relationship than some, a more personal relationship with some. At the end of the day, this is a business. You get paid large sums of money to perform for a team, and a team has to make decisions about those people and who are making that money. And at the end of it all, don't take it personal. It's a business.
Yeah, in fact, if I were to fill in the blank, I would say him calling the Broncos unprofessional for cutting him is the opposite of right. It is totally professional. It is purely taking into account the best interest of the football team, and we see teams do it all the time. Is it right? I mean, I don't think so. Look, I'm going to bring up a Jets example again. But the year that they traded for Favre, they gave Chad Pennington his unconditional release immediately because he had been such a good player and such a good soldier for them all those years. Rather than figuring out a place to trade him and whatever it is they could do, they just let him go. You know what he did? He signed in the division. He became the comeback player of the year. He led the Dolphins to the playoffs, and he beat the Jets the last week of the season. Does that mean it was the right thing or the wrong thing to do? I mean, who's to answer that question?
Yeah.
And you treat people the right way. Maybe in the big picture it comes back to serve your purposes. All right, next. Of the following options, a 4-home run game, a perfect game, or a 20 strikeout game, the one you would most want to accomplish is blank.
Again, there have been 5 20 strikeout games in the history of baseball in 9 innings. There have been 18 4-home run games and 23 perfect games. I think I'd want the 4 home runs.
I'd want the perfect game. I think there's something about going out there as a pitcher, 27 outs. To me, that would be one of the two. 4 home run games. I mean, I'm not saying that I would turn my nose up at any of these, but it would definitely be one of the two pitching things. 20 strikeouts would be so dominant. I mean, you would just have guys. That would be great fun. Not that I would know exactly what it would feel like, but I think to walk out there and go 27 up, 27 down, I think would be sensational.
Okay, 20K game, 4 home runs in a game, perfect game. There's one major league team
that has done all 3?
Yep.
I mean, the obvious thing to guess, generally speaking, is the Yankees. Do
Not
they
the
have
Yankees.
the 20 strikeout game is what I'm thinking.
Not the Yankees. It's a really, really good, tall, fast left-handed pitcher in a team he played for.
Randy Johnson?
Yes, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
He had the 20K game, 20 strikeout in 2001, perfect game in 2004, and then they just had the 4 home run game.
Okay, good. I like that one. Next, the filling in the blank. The Cavaliers reportedly shopping the Nets' number 1 pick is?
Telling. I mean, it's saying they're pushing all the chips in for this year. Let's get a player now. Let's try and win this thing now. And if we win it, how can LeBron leave?
I'm going to say, yes, I agree with you, and I will use the word smart. I think it's smart. I think if your primary objective is to keep LeBron James, the best way to do it is to win a championship this year. They don't have the pieces to win a championship this year right now. I think that even if you want to argue that they got better with Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder than they were with Kyrie,
right.
they're still not enough better to beat Golden State.
I agree with that.
If they turn that pick and Kevin Love into Anthony Davis, they are.
I don't know if they'd be favored, but they'd be one hell of a lot closer.
Shot.
Exactly.
You give LeBron James a season with Anthony Davis.
Listen, I can't argue with that.
That would be the scariest combination of players. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Would it be overstating it to say that would be the scariest 1-2 punch the league has seen?
Pretty darn scary.
Maybe since Magic Johnson and Kareem? I mean, what would be scarier than that? That would be scarier than Curry and Durant.
In a game that doesn't really use the bigs a lot anymore, that would be one.
And Davis
the way
is
he
such
plays.
a fluid big.
I know.
All right, one more quickly because I want to save the last one for a bigger conversation. Tom Herman should feel blank after Texas's season-opening home loss to Maryland.
Embarrassed. Just embarrassed. The way that team played, the way they were down. They were getting smoked in that game, 27-7 in the second quarter. At one point, 30-14 at halftime, I think. They were getting smoked. Now they started to mount a comeback, but just horrible from what they were to what was left in the cupboard to what this first performance was. Listen, kudos to Maryland. Let's give them all the credit in the world for doing what they did. But on the people that are focusing on Texas, man, that was an ugly start.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Charlie lost that game that way, think about the conversation they'd
Without
be having
question.
today.
This is supposed to be the start of the new era and new kind of play and all that, and that just was not there.
We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests like Stu Gotts in a moment on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It wasn't bad enough he sat in here for 4 hours yesterday. He's coming back on this Too Far Tuesday. We're taking your tweets all morning long. Hashtag Too Far Tuesday with your predictions on the upcoming season. Looking for some not super hot takes, which is to say I don't want anything totally unrealistic. If you give me, Christian Hackenberg is going to be the league MVP and the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl, we're not reading those on the air. We're looking for lukewarm. We're looking for reasonable hot takes.
How about this, Donnie? Matt Stafford and the Lions will be the sleeper team like the Falcons last year.
Look, do I expect it? No. Is it reasonable? Sure.
Yeah.
No one saw it.
That's a good one.
Hembo gave you the number last year. They had the same odds. Matt Ryan had the same odds before the season of winning MVP as Ryan Tannehill and Jay Cutler did. And by midway through the season, he's all anybody is talking about. So could that happen this year? Could that guy be Matt Stafford this year? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Fill in who wrote this one. The Dolphins are the team this year, and Jay Cutler's the MVP.
I might have guessed it anyway, but I'm on the text also.
Yeah.
That's Darius Rucker, who was a crazy Dolphin fan.
Yes, he is.
I mean, the Dolphins, and they may have to, all kidding aside, play their opening game somewhere other than Miami this weekend with Hurricane Irma. In fact, we'll get an update on that from Stu Gotts here in a serious way in just a second because he, of course, is there.
Right.
But look, that's a division where we'll see what Buffalo is. Who knows with the coaching change and all the turnover in personnel there. And they may have to start Nathan Peterman this week. The Jets are tanking. The Patriots are great, of course.
Patriots are great, but that leaves, what kind of year can Cutler have? You love the running game with Ajayi without a question. Can the defense step up? You love some of the weapons that he has there as well. We'll see. But then Darius did top it off with, I told him my son Mike is calling the Missouri-South Carolina game this week, Saturday night. He also added in Gamecocks are going to be the national champion. So he really, really is pushing the Too Far Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a take
nice
just
win
a little bit too hot. Let's get some tepid takes this morning. We go down to Miami where Stu Gotts is standing by live and he's ready to go. Of course, the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gotts coast to coast every day following us on ESPN Radio. Good morning, Stu Gotts.
Good morning, guys. We had a great time filling in for you yesterday. I don't know if your audience had a great time, but certainly me and Mike Golick Jr. had a wonderful time. I'm not certain about your audience, though. And thank you for allowing us to do it.
As I heard, you didn't care. You basically said you don't care what people think because Greeny and I were going to be here today anyway, so you don't care what they thought. You were just going to do what you did, and if they didn't like you, so what?
Yeah, we were just going to do what we do, basically what we do, on Weekend Observation, Sunday, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Radio, and a little bit of the Le Batard Show, and a little bit of what you guys do. But listen, I maintain you guys are the hardest guys at sports radio to fill in for because your fan base has been built up. It's so enormous, so large over a long time of doing this that I'm telling you, man, I filled in on other shows. When I sit in Greeny's seat, people get really mad at me. Like, they don't like when the contract is broken, and they don't like when anyone is there other than the two of you. That's it. That is it. Guys, I'm telling you, that's a compliment. You should take that as a compliment. You're the most difficult guys to fill in for anywhere in sports radio, ever, in the history of sports radio.
Well, if there's anyone who's capable of doing it, Stu, hopefully we'll find them. It certainly isn't you.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
you go.
Let's get down to business here. On one serious note, if we could, because you are there in Miami, can you give us whatever you are aware of at this point as far as Hurricane Irma, the ramifications there? I saw the governor declared a state of emergency. And, of course, one of the pieces of news that will come from this is whether or not the Dolphins can play their home opener on Sunday. It is by no means the most important part of it. But from one who was there, give us a sense of what's going on.
Guys, we've been through a number of these, and we go through a couple of these every single year. So, the entire state of Florida is under a state of emergency. We won't know more for a couple of days here, probably towards the end of the week. And in South Florida, it's just it's a part of daily living down here, especially during hurricane season, which we're obviously right in the middle of right now. So people will get prepared. They are starting to get prepared. They're getting the water. They're getting their supplies as it relates to sports down here. But again, guys, we won't know more about this until maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, somewhere, probably closer to the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, somewhere in that neighborhood. In terms of sports, there are all kinds of different things that can happen here. The Hurricanes are on the road this weekend, so they'll be okay. The Miami Hurricanes. The Dolphins and, the Dolphins opening game against the Bucs could be Thursday night. It could be Sunday. We'll have to wait and see here. The Dolphins will probably have to make that decision today. And, there's also another possibility here where both these teams have the exact same bye week, and maybe they move the week one game to that bye week and play it there. Both teams, both coaches have said the right thing. We'll do whatever the people who know more about these things than we do tell us to do. We'll play the game whenever we have to.
Yeah, we've got a few more days to see just what is going to happen with Hurricane Irma in that situation. College football week one in the books. Any crazy thoughts on how you thought that week went?
Yeah, listen, it was kind of a funny weekend. The games were exciting, right? But the two games that we were most excited for kind of fell flat, at least for me. The Alabama game and then the Gators and the Michigan game. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I heard Kirk Herbstreit have a very interesting discussion on College Game Day where he said this committee that decides the Final Four, it cannot be the old AP poll. It just can't. Like, if they think a team, this committee thinks a team that has 2 losses deserves to be in the Final Four, then they need to put them in the Final Four. And the reason I bring this up is because, Mike, me and your son were talking yesterday on your show. I have no idea, based on what I saw on Saturday, I have no clue if Michigan is better than Florida. Florida was missing 10 players, 2 of their best offensive players. That game was close. Florida had a halftime lead. I have no idea. Michigan tacked on a late touchdown there. I honestly have no idea if Michigan is better than the University of Florida at playing football until I see them play at even strength. Nothing I saw on Saturday led me to believe that Michigan is better than them, and nothing led me to believe that Michigan is one of the 4 best teams in the country. So I hope this committee does not act like the AP poll moving forward here, where it's just 0 loss, 1 loss. So those are the teams that get into the Final Four. I hope they take things into account, like the fact that Florida was playing without 10 players and 2 of their best offensive players.
Well, one quick note, we've never had, it's only been 3 years
right.
in the playoffs. We've never had a 2-loss team make it in the playoffs, so we'll see if that can change.
0 for 12 on that front, and that's why I keep saying, and Stu, I know you're going to, I just know you're going to be on my side on this.
Okay.
That I know what the players may want. I know what the fans may want. And as a fan, I enjoy it. But if I were coaching one of these big schools in one of these big conferences, I would schedule 3 teams you never heard of in your whole life. I would play the easiest non-conference schedule. I'd get criticized on game day for it all along. But my goal would be I'm just not going to lose I'm going to lose as few games as I possibly can. And if I can give myself a few gimmies early in the season, then I'm going to take that, because until I see a team with 2 losses get into the college football playoff, I'm going to believe it's not going to happen.
It's funny you think that I'll agree with you, because I will agree with you, but Golic probably hates us and hates our mentality.
Yes, I do.
Rudy, that's what. Yeah, I know. Golic, I know. But you know what? Alabama, 2 linebackers out for the season. Florida State quarterback out for the season. One of those teams lost. The Gators lost. They have to win the remainder of their games to get to the Final Four. Both the teams that lost this past weekend, Florida and Florida State, which is unlikely to happen. I'm with Greeny, and Lee Corso said this on game day, by the way, guys, and he got criticized for saying it. So, Greeny, you're right. If they're going to criticize Corso, they're certainly going to criticize me and you. I'm with Greeny on this, Golic. I'd schedule 3 or 4 cupcakes at the beginning of the season, start 3-0, 4-0, and then kind of go from there. You can't lose more than Golic. You just said it yourself. You can't lose more than once and find yourself in the Final Four. You can't do it.
I get it. And the only thing I'll say to you on the other side is Ohio State does not get in the Final Four last year if they didn't beat Oklahoma in week 1. If that was a directional school they played, they would not have been in the Final Four. So the power of that game got them in the Final Four. So it worked to their advantage to play a tough game.
Stugotz and I, I'm sure, have similar timelines in that we both cover we both follow the people who cover the New York Jets, and what's fascinating is all they're tweeting about are the performances of Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. So let me just get your take quickly on the comeback that Rosen put together the other night and your thoughts on him.
He's going to look terrible behind that Jet offensive line next year. I feel bad for that kid. I mean, I really do. You know, a lot of the quarterbacks that Mel has in that top 10 going in that first round, guys, they didn't really perform well. Rosen, the USC quarterback, that Greeny just mentioned, whose name I just forgot. I'm sorry about that. Josh Rosen in the fourth quarter fixed all of that. With 1 quarter, he fixed all of that. Now, a couple of those passes were lucky. A couple he just chucked up in the air, and receivers went out and got him. One time, a Texas A&M cornerback just missed the ball. It should have been interception, but Josh Rosen was certainly the most impressive. And Greedy's right. I mean, Jet fans are going to be paying more attention to Saturdays than they are Sundays, because there's absolutely no reason to pay attention to anything that's going to go on Sundays this year. So we'll just watch Saturdays.
That kid who missed that interception when the ball went right through his hands for an AM is going to be sick for a long, long time.
Yes.
That was tough to see. Let's go to the NFL. 2-part question. How do you think the Zeke Elliott thing plays out, and what do you think? How should it play out in your opinion?
I think it's going to play out the way that everyone's suggesting that it's going to play out here. I think it's going to get down to 4 games. They're going to do it today, and then I think Zeke Elliott and his team, the NFLPA, are going to take this thing to court. I think it's going to sit in the courts for a while, and I think Zeke Elliott, for that reason, Mike, is going to play. And that's the way it should work out. This is the way it should work out. It's within Zeke Elliott's rights. He's doing all the right things here. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm so confused. So I think Zeke Elliott, to answer your question, is going to play this week, and I think that thing's going to be tied up in the courts for a while here. So I could see Zeke Elliott playing most of this regular season here, and we'll learn a lot more about it today. The confusing part about all this is the NFL. And Golic, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. We discussed it yesterday. I can't believe the NFL has someone who is in charge of these investigations, and she did her investigation. It was 13 months, and she recommended no games, and somehow that didn't get to Roger Goodell, or if it did get to Roger Goodell, he didn't take it seriously and gave Zeke 6 games. That is insane to me. The lack of communication, the fact that you have someone who's in charge of all of this, and the person who's in charge of all of it said 0 games, and Roger Goodell said, I don't care what you think, I'm going to give him 6 games. To me, that is crazy. That is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I get it to a point. I mean, listen, if they didn't let that her speak at all, I certainly, it's an embarrassing look. If Roger did hear what she had to say and just disregarded it, the thing I'll say is it's a committee. You know, you listen to everybody in the committee and you make your decision. So if one person said no, maybe the other 4 said yes, we do think there should be a suspension. Isn't that? So I guess I would ask you, if the committee as a whole, the majority recommended a suspension, is that wrong then that he came back with a suspension? I don't know for a fact that that's what happened, but that's what a committee is.
And it's worth throwing into the discussion. For what, again, on Friday, the league steadfastly denied that Goodell was not informed of the opinion. She wasn't in the room for that meeting, but they steadfastly denied the notion that Goodell never heard that had been her recommendation, one way or another. Stugotz, what will be interesting to see is, here's what I think might happen. I think they might lower it to enough where Jerry Jones and Zeke might want to just live with it.
Just let it go.
Or, you know what? If they take it from 6 games down to
Right.
2, take the 2 games and get on with it. But I don't know that the NFLPA will want that because they have a bunch of different circumstances at play. One of them is they want to go after the Article 46
Yes,
powers.
they do, and I don't blame them.
And
Keep
the other
fighting.
is that DeMaurice Smith has got a major challenge going on from this guy Cyrus Murray right now,
Well-
who is sending out PR releases every other day, and so maybe he wants an opportunity to really flex his muscle in a big way. So there is a lot of politics going on in the middle of all this, Stu Gatz.
Well, Greeny, the one person in this equation who might not want 2 games, might not want 1 game. I understand what you're saying. Jerry Jones, hey, 2 games, just go away and we'll move forward here. Zeke, you'll miss 2 weeks. But how about Zeke? Like Tom Brady did not want Deflategate attached to him. Zeke Elliott probably doesn't want this thing attached to him, and you have to take him into consideration here. He might want to fight this all the way through because he does not want this attached to him, his name, his life, his career for the remainder of his life and his career.
And I could see that, but I could also understand the union. Their best chance usually to fight things is in court. So I don't blame them at all for wanting to go there and trying to take another crack at the power of the NFL, saying procedurally they're doing things wrong. So I don't blame the union at all for wanting to do this. Let's see how it plays out. I think we all expect some decision before 4 o'clock today, and then we go from there. All right, let's go with the beef, Stu. You have more beef with Alabama winning or the hype surrounding them?
Well, they deserve the hype, and I don't even have a beef with them winning. The thing that we debated yesterday on your guys' show is whether or not Alabama has become bad for college football. What's the thing you always hear about the NBA? The offseason is better than the regular season. We don't like the fact that we know it's going to be, barring injury, going to be Golden State and the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals. And so we just kind of were kicking it around yesterday. Has Alabama, because it's in all likelihood they're going to be in the Final Four, and it looks like they'll be in the Final Four every single year as long as Nick Saban is there. I just find myself like growing tired. There's Alabama, at least I'm experiencing this. I'm not certain the rest of the country is, and certainly no one in Tuscaloosa is. I have Alabama fatigue. Like, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of that team, and I'm tired of having the same team in the Final Four of the national championship game seemingly every single season. So I'd be interested, guys. Do you think, like, do we have a problem approaching us where there might be Alabama fatigue, where people are getting tired of Alabama, or is college football just a different sport? There are 4 teams. We don't really care about it like we do in the NBA.
I'm going to say it. I don't have the same problem with it you do, and here's why. Because Golden State, there's nothing that is going to stop them from getting back to where they are. It is a foregone conclusion because of the nature of their postseason format. Alabama may be the best team in the country. They probably are. But that's a sport where any given Saturday, one bad day, and it changes everything. I remember Johnny Manziel beating them on their field. We've seen them lose games. So all they need is one loss, and the entire paradigm gets shifted. So I think it's just the nature of the sport. It impacts it less than it does the other.
I don't think it's bad for college football, where college football is in such a great spot right now. I don't think people would mind kind of an out-of-the-box one team getting into the Final Four just to see how they would do.
What constitutes that to you? Would that have to be someone from outside the Power
Well,
Five?
I think so.
Like last year was Fresno State.
Last year, Washington ends up getting in, but they're a Pac-12 team. But a lot of people still wanted to see, did they belong in there? How were they going to do in there? But I mean, outside the Power Five, maybe one team getting in. But for the most part, I think it's like the NCAA basketball tournament. The first few rounds are for those upsets, but when you get to the end, you want to see those big
Boise
teams
State
there.
all those years.
Utah.
Right, yes. But Mike, occasionally you get a George Mason who makes the Final Four, and that seems impossible in the college football system. Like, occasionally you get a George Mason who will make it all the way to the Final Four, or a Villanova who will win the national championship.
Yeah, a lot has to go the right way with other big teams losing at the right time for that. So we'll see. Next one, more beef with the Jets giving up on Sheldon Richardson or trading him to the Seahawks.
I guess Greeny, man, this is tough. Like, this is really tough. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I understand why the Jets did it. I know he's got a year left. I know he's been a problem in the locker room for the New York Jets. I don't understand. When did we become the farm system for the teams that have a really good shot of winning a Super Bowl? Brandon Marshall to the Giants, David Harris to the Patriots, Sheldon Richardson to the Seattle Seahawks. I think it makes the Seahawks the best team in the NFL. I think they are now the team to beat. I think that defensive line is that good. The Jets needed a wide receiver. I guess, they got the Seahawks' third wide receiver, and they'll try to make him the Jets' number 1 wide receiver in Curse. I don't know if he'll be any good. They got the second-round pick next year. I understand why the Jets did it. They also have a lot of money wrapped up in that defensive line. Mo Wilkerson last year. They're going to have to pay Leonard Williams eventually. But it's just frustrating because, Greedy, there's not a lot of people watching the Jets. You and I, unfortunately, are stuck watching this team every single Sunday, and we will for the remainder of our lives. And it's a miserable existence. But I will tell you, the one thing I enjoyed watching every single Sunday was Sheldon Richardson. Because I know he only had a sack and a half last year, but that guy is active. He's all over the field. He does a lot of great stuff on the field. Not a great guy off the field, but on the field, he is fun to watch and he's talented. And I can't believe all the Jets got were Kearse and a second-round pick. And they just gifted him to the Seattle Seahawks, who already had the best defense in the NFL.
People around the country don't realize, because as Stugotz says, you're not probably watching the Jets much, how good this guy is.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He's really, really
He's a disruptor.
good.
Stu said it great. He doesn't, sometimes not those sack numbers, but he is a disruptor, and now he gets to disrupt for one of the best defenses in the NFL. All right.
The last one, because I want to hear his
Keep
take
laughing
on this.
at us, Golick.
Oh, God. Last one. More beef with the Cavaliers if they trade the Nets draft pick or if they keep it?
I would have more issues. Listen, I understand what the new GM is trying to do, but I would have a major, major issue if they trade this pick. You fought hard. You were patient. You got the asset that you wanted. There is no – listen, I am telling you, I lived through 4 years of LeBron James. And if you think that you could win a championship this year and LeBron still won't leave after winning the championship, you are mistaken, sir. I am telling you, LeBron James has exactly 1 year left in the city of Cleveland. 1 year left playing for the Cavaliers. You hold on to that pick with your life. Do not give it away. You're going to need it. That pick is your future. I am telling you, if you're trying to get assets for LeBron James, don't do it. He has enough to get back to the NBA Finals. You need that pick to build for your future. I don't care what happens this year. You can go out and get Anthony Davis and win the NBA championship. LeBron James is still leaving after next season. If you don't think he'll walk after winning a championship, try it out and see what happens, because I promise you he is going to walk away regardless of what he does and they do this season.
I disagree. Completely disagree. Absolutely disagree.
I think it's a fascinating little way of playing it out. But if indeed, now I don't think that New Orleans would do this, but if you could get, and the money matches up, Kevin Love and that pick for Anthony Davis, I'd do it whether you think LeBron James is staying or going. If you think you can keep Anthony Davis there, I'd rather build around Anthony Davis than anything that pick might turn out to be. Anthony Davis
But Grady, hold on a second. I'm sorry to cut you off. You lose Kevin Love in that scenario, and LeBron James is leaving. And then you're just left with Anthony Davis and guys who don't want to go to Cleveland. There are guys who don't want to go to Cleveland to play with LeBron James. You think they can go there and play with Anthony Davis? And the Pelicans have been building around Anthony Davis, and it's resulted in exactly nothing. I hold on to that pick.
He is Stugotz, and he's always wrong, and that's what we love about him. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance
That's just unfair. It's an unfair argument when you can just I made a great point. You just come back and say I'm wrong.
Yeah,
and because you have more credibility than I do, Greedy, therefore I'm wrong. That's not fair. This is not a fair game you and I are playing here, Mike.
If you have the opportunity to acquire Anthony Davis for any draft pick, you do it. You do it. The chances that guy, whoever it is you're drafting, turns out to be half of Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is a once-in-a-lifetime player. You get him if you can, and you smile all the way to the bank.
All right, you lose LeBron, you lose Kevin Love, you win 22
hopefully
games,
you don't
and you
lose
don't
LeBron.
make the playoffs.
The way you're talking about it, though, you're suggesting that you're going to lose LeBron no matter what, right? It makes no difference.
Right, and therefore I don't make that trade, even for Anthony Davis. If I know I'm going to lose LeBron, which I'm telling you they're going to lose LeBron, it is pointless to make that trade.
So would you rather have Kevin Love and that pick or Anthony Davis?
I'd rather have Kevin Love in that pick. That's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay, and that's where I'm telling you you're wrong.
Yeah, here's the beautiful thing that we can do now. Turn his camera off. Goodbye.
That's the ultimate power play. Stugotz back and better than ever again today. Dan Le Batard Show starts coast to coast, 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The best of Mike and Mike.
It is a delight to see our buddy Darren Woodson back and better than ever in our studio, getting set for the start of the year on Thursday. How are you been, Woody?
I'm great, man. I mean, I had the college football this weekend was spectacular.
So it was.
Great matchup. So I had a good time, and I just, I'm ready. I'm ready to go with this football season.
So let's start with one of the worst things that's going on right now, and obviously everyone associates you with the Cowboys and Zeke Elliott and all of this. What is your sense, in any way you can, of what's going on? We would assume we'll hear something by 4 o'clock this afternoon today. I'm monitoring Shefty's Twitter feed very closely. Yeah. And then what? Where do you think we are, and where do you think it's going?
I think right now it's a guessing game. I mean, I'm hearing 2 to 4 games. Some of them are saying 6 games right now. I think the Cowboys are holding their breath, thinking, maybe they can get this reduced down to 2 to 3 games or somewhat. But, we just don't know. And this case has gone on since last year, basically. And the investigation has been fumbled in some ways. I think there's a lot of mistrust with the Players Association and the NFL.
You think?
Yeah, oh, yeah. And, it's even to the point where we always talk about the Shield and representing the Shield and having that honor and all. And now, I don't think the players look at the Shield the same way. I think they look at the Shield as you're on Park Avenue in New York City. That's where the Shield is, and we're the players. And we have to take care of football. You guys take care of your business. I think it's a total separation. There is no – I used to love the fact of, hey, not only am I representing the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm representing the league. There's none of that.
No, it's not there right now.
It's totally separate.
We keep looking at the NBA with Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts, how they have worked so well together, and all the leagues are making huge money, and you just kind of shake your head and like, why can't you find some little common ground to build a foundation on? But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. As far as Zeke, let's go past the domestic violence in this issue is separate from some of the other things that he's been doing as well, and some of the things maybe not even reported that have been going on. How about him going forward? What needs to happen for him? We always hear he should look at guys like Jason Witten. Of course he should. You can tell a guy anything you want, but until they do it and understand that, do you think something gets through to this guy? Because the maturity level, again, aside from the domestic violence thing, we know that that's a separate thing. Some of the actions there, and he's not the first or last, but it's certainly the maturity level needs to go up.
And listen, the Cowboys went through the same situation with Dez Bryant years ago, not to this extent, but they had some issues with him, and they surrounded him with a group of guys, a team that can get him through this process. And as he matured, things got better. Zeke is a guy that, we've heard about this from his father moving from in high school to college to Ohio State to Columbus to live with him because they felt like he was immature then. And then he comes to Dallas, gets a ton of money in his pocket, and then he goes out and pretty much does the same thing. He's a guy that has to grow up. And I don't know if you can surround him with people and say, okay, now he's going to get better. I think it's just a process that individually as a man, he's going to have to become a professional. And he's just not there right now. Right now, he wants to go out to clubs. He wants to hang out. He wants to have a good time, which most of us did at the same time. But he's putting himself into some bad situations that he can't get out of now. And I think this, with the limelight that this kid is a rock star in Dallas. Now, Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, they came to Dallas and they turned everything around. So everywhere they go, I don't care if it's at breakfast in the morning, to the gym, to the store, wherever it is, they get followed around. People take pictures, and he's being caught in these bad situations. I don't know if it's going to be you got to surround him with police officers and go from point A to point B with him. I think it's just a point of he has to mature from within. It can't be from the outside. It can't be Jerry Jones spending his money throwing resources at him. Zeke has to grow up and be a man.
The best of Mike and Mike.
We will bring in our friend Mr. Feinbaum, who always has interesting perspective on a variety of different stories of the day. Good morning, Paul Feinbaum.
Good morning, and Greeny, I was listening to you coming in about whether these teams should play big-time opponents in the opener. If there was ever a team that did not need to, it was Florida State. They end every season playing Florida. That should have been enough for them, and I bet they're agreeing with you right now.
That's true. That is, if you're going to play if you're going to play a real out-of-conference game, a big out-of-conference game, why would you play two?
Right.
Paul, help me with this. Everyone is making fun of me. They're calling me soft and everything else for this position that I'm taking, and I understand it. But the reality is the best way to wind up one of the last 4 teams standing is to lose as few games as possible. No. It's tried and true.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
And by the way, Florida is in the same spot. I mean, they played Michigan. I'm sure they regret that. I think playing one is a good idea. Playing two is ridiculous, and you just increase your odds. And last year Washington played three high school teams, or 4, I think, and actually one of them may have been Rutgers. I can't remember. And they ended up getting to the college football playoff. So it's all about television. It's all about intrigue. Nick Saban loves it, and why not? I mean, he's the best preparer of opening games maybe in college football history. When you look at the number of the scoring margin for him, the winning margin. So he'll do it. But Jimbo Fisher not only lost a game, he lost his quarterback and probably lost all hope of making the college football playoff.
I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, but you can't go in thinking that. I mean, you can't go in thinking I'm going to lose my quarterback, for the rest of the season. You go in there thinking you're going to show well, and if you happen to lose and then win the rest of the games, that the committee, 13 human beings, will look at that, like they did with Ohio State last year and saying, yeah. You played Oklahoma early and you beat them. That's a feather in your cap that came back to really be the jumping off point for them getting into the Final Four.
No, I mean that's true, Mike. I totally agree with that. But and you don't know your quarterback is going to go down. I think maybe the better solution, you can play these games, but why would anyone in their right mind play Alabama? You are going to lose, and you are going to lose badly.
Tell us what we took away from that game, because Florida State has a big-time defense. So it might not be, and it's the opening week of the season, so it might not be the perfect time to be evaluating everything. But we hold Alabama to a little different standard. So we saw their special teams, brilliant, obviously, basically won them the game. The defense typically stifling. The offense a little sputtering, but again, they're up against a good D. What did you take away from Alabama's performance?
Well, I took away that Alabama has now played 3 consecutive games, the championship game against Clemson, the one against Washington before that, and now this without doing anything on offense. And by the way, 3 different coordinators in those 3 games. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I didn't see a lot from Jalen Hurts. I mean, he had a serviceable game, but nothing outstanding. Brian Dable came over from the Patriots, and the offense looked a little bit different, but it wasn't dramatically different. And part of the reason, I think, is obvious, and you said it. Florida State's the best defense Alabama will see all year. So that's not a good time to start getting into rhythm and trying things that are risky. Nick Saban does not like to take risks.
Listen, Florida State has a championship defense. Watching both those defenses was a lot of fun, and Alabama lost a couple of linebackers for the season. They just reloaded with another 5-star.
But, Mike, you know what was interesting? Damian Harris, the starting running back, blocked the punt. I mean, when you start using your best players on special teams, you are going to get an edge.
Oh, without question. And we know Nick Saban has no problem doing that at all. We had Stugatz on a little earlier talking about is Alabama bad for this talk coming up. Usually we talk about that with the UConn women's basketball team.
Yeah.
Is it bad for women's college basketball? Is it bad for college football that Alabama is there year in and year out?
I'm concerned for Stugatz. Ever since he dressed up and looked like me, he is starting to sound like me. And I chuckled, but what are we supposed to do? Just say, okay, Alabama, you can't play in this league. We're going to send you to the NFC East or something. That is not Alabama's problem, Stu, that Alabama has dominated so dramatically. We haven't seen anything quite like this. I mean, we've seen it over the course of college football history in different eras, but the fact that it's happening now is astonishing, but it really shouldn't be surprising. I mean, Nick Saban has established himself as the best. He gets the best players every year. He has not only his regular coaching staff, but he's got about 20 other guys that sit around and analyze film and give him an edge, including a number of former head coaches. And if you get fired, you usually end up as an analyst for Nick Saban pretty quickly. So there's just not much you can do other than try to beat them. I mean, you could ask the question, are the Patriots bad for the NFL? I mean, they've won 5 Super Bowls, but they do lose occasionally. They lost to the Giants, shattering a perfect season. They've lost in other games. But I just think it's a little bit unfair to say, okay, well, Alabama, there's Alabama fatigue. Okay, well, there's not Golden State fatigue. There wasn't Miami fatigue. There wasn't Cleveland fatigue. I mean, this is just a very narrow-minded argument, which I fully expected coming from Stugatz.
Oh, I like it. I like it when we pit them against each other. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Alabama is not the defending national champion as we speak.
No, it seems like it, though, doesn't it?
They didn't win that year. Yeah, no, look, they're dominant. He's the best coach ever. In my opinion, he is the best coach ever. All right, on to the next topic. Mike brought this up briefly. A Houston attorney by the name of Tony Busby, who was a member of the Texas A&M Board of Regents, after the Texas A&M football team blew a huge lead to Josh Rosen and UCLA, the member of the Board of Regents, went on Facebook as though he was an anonymous fan going on a message board and posted, "I'm sure I may be criticized for this post, but I honestly don't care. I've been on the Board of Regents for almost 7 years. During that time, I've not once commented on Kevin Sumlin and his performance during his tenure at our school. I never said a word when he and his agent manipulated a much bigger and longer contract. I said nothing about his arrogance and his mishandling of multiple player controversies. I said nothing when he had multiple awesome recruiting classes only to see key players leave our school or underperform. But tonight I'm very disappointed, and I have to say this. Kevin Sumlin was outcoached tonight, which isn't new. He recruits well but can't coach the big games or the close games. Our players were better tonight. Our players were more talented tonight, but our coaches were dominated on national TV. I'm only one vote on the Board of Regents, but when the time comes, my vote will be that Kevin Sumlin needs to go. Those are the words of a member of the Board of Regents in as public a forum as we have in society today on Facebook. Paul Feinbaum, what's your reaction?
Well, I mean, Mr. Busby sounds like someone who had bet on Texas A&M and lost. Yeah. Not a member of the Board of Regents. But before I rail on about how inappropriate it was and how out of character, you also have to stop and think, what did he say that was wrong? I didn't find any fault in his Facebook post. I just found fault in the fact that someone in a position of responsibility and integrity would act so ridiculous and reckless, and especially in a state that has suffered so much and that affected so many players on the Texas A&M team. That may be the thing that bugs me the most. But what's also interesting, Greeny, is I checked yesterday with various sources at Texas A&M. I didn't find any blowback, any brushback from what he said. Nobody was issuing statements saying he's wrong and he should take them back. And that's the most troubling thing for Kevin Sumlin. He was not popular going into this season. He did manipulate his contract years ago when he tried to when he was flirting with various NFL clubs. That was in the wake of Johnny Manziel, of course, when he actually looked like he knew what he was doing. And now I think he's dead man walking. I don't know what his path is because his support has wavered dramatically. And Busby may be foolish for doing it, but very few people, if anyone, is arguing with what he said.
Yeah, I agree. But that's something for some, fan to write, not a Board of Regents guy.
Exactly.
That's
someone who actually will get to vote on this at some point.
Right.
Or it sounded a little bit like Stu Gatz.
Yeah, well, there you go. Or Stu Gatz. So, obviously, with big wins and some bad injuries that we've talked about as well, you have some bad losses. So, when you look at these losses, is it Texas loss? Is it UNLV losing to Howard as a 45-point favorite? Is it Baylor's loss to Liberty? Some of these new coaches like a Tom Herman and Rule in Baylor losing their first games. Which did you look at and say, wow, that was an awful loss?
Well, what really surprised me was Texas losing in Tom Herman's debut and the fact that Texas fans were throwing debris on the field. I mean, this is game one of the chosen one. That was really surprising. I mean, Baylor losing to Liberty was shocking, but quite frankly, I can't be shocked by anything that comes out of Waco, Texas these days. I was out in Dallas over the weekend, and Florida's performance was just bewildering. How poorly they played, and I know they had 10 players suspended, but what was equally surprising to me was how good Michigan's defense looked. Mike, I heard you talking about that, and we can joke about Jim Harbaugh, and I have, and I will continue to, but I will not joke about what a great football coach he is.
Mike and Mike, Paul Feinbaum is with us, as he will be every week through the season, brought to you by Goodyear. Tires as hardworking as college football's most blimp-worthy athletes. Goodyear, official sponsor of the college football playoff. This week, a huge schedule will include Ohio State, Oklahoma. These teams played last year. Ohio State was terrific in a game they weren't expected to win on the road. And as Mike, you pointed out, that sort of was their springboard to making it all the way to the Final Four. What are we expecting this weekend in the rematch, Paul Feinbaum?
Yeah, Ohio State was pretty shaky in that opener against Indiana, but I think J.T. Barrett will look good in the second half, and I expect Ohio State to win. I'm not sure Lincoln Riley is going to be able to make this transition very quickly from Bob Stoops. I think Bob Stoops in this game gave the Sooners a chance, but to me, Urban Meyer is one notch below Nick Saban. He's been preparing for this game. He will have his team ready, and I think the atmosphere will be insane.
How about the game? I'll be at it. Notre Dame gets a win against Temple. Georgia gets a win, but they lose their quarterback, Easton, and Fromm is a freshman, going to take over and be the quarterback. Now, it's a running team anyway, but still, this matchup in South Bend, Georgia, coming up there. I think they said they're expecting close to 30,000 Georgia fans coming up for this game, which wouldn't shock me. It's a great fan base there. How do you see that one?
Yeah, this is a rematch of the 1980 Sugar Bowl, Mike, that Georgia and Herschel Walker won.
Yeah.
I think that was a big blow, and a lot of my Georgia friends are saying, well, Fromm is maybe a little better than Eason. He is, but he doesn't have experience. And I know Eason went on the road last year a couple of times and won, but he won at Kentucky and Missouri. And I'm still old school, Mike. I think going to Notre Dame at night, that's an impossible place, I think, to make your college debut as a starting quarterback. I think things are starting to favor Notre Dame in this game.
All right, he's Paul Feinbaum, and again, he'll join us every week throughout the entire college football season. You hear him every afternoon here on ESPN Radio. See him all over the SEC Network and much, much more. Paul, we're looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul.
My pleasure, guys. Talk to you next week.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standards.